to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Starting our public session at 6 p.m. We always start with public safety. We have a member of the Suffolk County Police Force here with us, Officer Petrowski. Linda, first name basis. Okay. So I'll give them the privilege of presenting their agenda, and if there's any questions with respect to public safety, we'll take those after Chief and Officer Petrowski start.
I'll start off. Have a microphone this time.
Yeah, just so the general, this is the first time this meeting is also being able to be viewed via YouTube. So public comments, you will have to come up to the podium now and speak into the microphone. That is the only way that your comment will be able to be picked up for the audio and video presentation.
We're ready, and it is green. So once again, we've said this before, we'll say it again. Please lock your cars. We have a continual problem where all over Suffolk County, all over New York State, they're targeting residential areas throughout Suffolk for larcenies. Basically, they walk neighborhoods, they pull on all the doorknobs of the cars, and when they find it open, when they take whatever's inside. The issue being, if you have a garage door opener, okay, and you have a breezeway or a door into your house, they can now gain access to your home and you. So please lock up your doors, lock up well. We've had several complaints in the last 3 weeks about people parking in the handicap next to Starbucks and on all of the corners downtown that are hash marked off. So in each of these instances, we advise. We're heavily invested in those areas. That handicap spot is probably the most written handicap spot in the area. In addition, parking in those hash mark areas are written every day on every shift by our personnel. We had one fellow come aboard and he asked, could we possibly put either pylons or some sort of barriers? That we can't do. It would interfere with street sweeping and snow removal and possibly interfere with people's access to the crosswalk. So we can't do that, obviously. So go ahead. You have stats for us, I'm sure.
You got that? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to start off by letting everybody know that our 6th Precinct community meeting is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the 6th Precinct, and that's going to be hosted by our inspector, Inspector Riley, where he gives a brief summary of everything that's gone on within the 6th Precinct boundaries, including your area. And also on top of that, we do have another event coming up. Our office, including our commanding officers, we do a coffee with a cop. It's going to be on March 18th. That's also, it's Selden Starbucks. That's going to be 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. You can just drop in, have a cup of coffee, and talk to the officers, talk to the command staff about any questions, concerns, or just to talk. We're available for that. I want to reiterate the locking the vehicles at nighttime when you're not in your cars. Make sure anything of value is not in them. And please don't leave keys in your car. We're seeing an uptick of people leaving their cars running at locations such as gas stations, 7-Elevens, and people are hopping in and taking the cars for joyrides and such. This has been happening all over the county. And then outside of that, catalytic converter thefts have gone through the roof county-wide. We're seeing that it's not even county-wide, it's island-wide. Nassau County is also battling the same thing. So if you see anybody suspicious around any vehicles, your neighbor's vehicles, your own, please call the police immediately. We're working tirelessly to try to catch up with the people doing this and put them in jail. All right, so our statistics for Port Jeff Village, we did a quick comparison from February 7th to March 7th, and we're comparing the year of 22 to 21. We do have a little bit of an uptick in general calls for service. We've gone up from 219 to 255. Total criminal incidents for the area have gone from 5 to 11. Our main ticking points here, we have aggravated harassment where the complainant refused to press charges. We have 0 assaults in this time frame, which has gone down from last year. We have 1 burglary investigation that is active, and 1 criminal mischief that's also active. Grand larcenies have gone down to 1. It is active. There were keys in the vehicle. Harassments, we had 5 within this time frame. 3 are active, 2 parties refused to press charges. We had 1 larceny, which was cleared by an arrest. And then our non-criminal incidents have gone up a little bit also, from 201 to 224. Our ambulance calls have gone up slightly, from 55 to 66. We had 1 overdose ambulance call in this time period, and general disturbances have gone from 38 to 48, so a slight uptick there. Motor vehicle accidents, I'm happy to report, have gone from 15 down to 1, which is a huge decrease. We have had no fatal motor vehicle accidents. The number of arrests for this time period had gone from 4 arrests with 7 charges up to 7 arrests with 13 charges. I know everybody has a concern about the events that took place over the weekends. We did have a shooting occur here, just 2 buildings over by the town parking lot across from the Saghar restaurant. And I am pleased to tell you that we have a suspect identified, and we are currently seeking that suspect. Okay. Does anybody have questions? No? Yes.
Yes, Art. Point of order, where is our stenographer?
Okay, thank you. This is a very difficult question for you, but nonetheless one that I think is very important. By the way, Arthur Epp, 206 East Main Street. In light of the Ukraine-Russian war, some analysts are predicting that the United States might see a cyber attack. Do you work with the Department of Homeland Security in any capacity to help the municipalities prepare for this?
Our department has an entire Homeland Security bureau within the Suffolk County Police Department. That is, it's made up of detectives and superior officers that are also detective staff as well. So it's definitely something where all of the different agencies are working together. And that's not a new agency. That's something that we've had in place for as long as I've been around. I'm in my 17th year now, so way prior to that.
Guys, we're going to really have to use the microphone, and so I'm going to insist that anybody who wants to make a public comment, I apologize, you have to come up and use the mic.
So I'll set it- I'll set
That's the
it this way.
exchange for transparency.
I'll set it that way so we can all.
Yeah. Sorry, Art, I'm sorry to interrupt your conversation.
Okay, you were giving an excellent response. My question would be, like, for instance, having a battery-operated transistor radio could be critical. Keeping your car filled 3/4 of gasoline at all times could be important.
I agree.
There are small things we can do that the general public is not apprised as of yet that could make a huge difference in getting through such an event.
Okay. I can forward the information that maybe we should be putting out a little bit more public notifications when it comes to that type of thing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
If you can hear by just me stepping up, pretty much the same precautions you would take for a large disaster or hurricane or a storm are similar. They're very similar things you want to do.
Barbara Ransom.
Barbara Ransom, 409. Well, I guess I won't be that close.
You can keep it better far away.
Barbara Ransom, 409 East Broadway, Port Jeff. 2 things to the officer. Would you be able to give us any more detail about that overdose? And I have a reason why.
We don't have the specific overdose information, just that it's in a car, and it was not a fatality.
Do you know what kind of drug, by chance? Would it be able to get that information?
I can find out if that's something that we're able to.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, and I know it's an active investigation in regards to the shootings Sunday morning at 2 a.m., but do you have any idea of where that originated?
I don't have the details about where it initially started.
Okay, so what the skinny is on the street, and I've had a lot of information, is that it originated from an overspill from a cigar.
Okay.
And on that note, and now I'll put my hat on of Chamber of Commerce, I've been getting a lot of information that cigar is serving underage minors, and it's a mess. And I don't know where to go with that, but just, this was yet another incident. And why I asked you about the overdose was because I also heard an overdose at cigar. And maybe it happened afterwards, and I'll be happy to discuss more. And it's all anecdotal, it's hearsay, but if it comes over across my desk at the chamber, then I only can imagine it comes across the trustees' desks and maybe the chief's desk too. But it's a hot spot, and we're going into a high season right now, and I just believe it's going to get worse.
Okay.
So,
If I can get that information specific to the overdose, you're hoping to find what location and type of drug?
yeah, from only to confirm stuff that I've been hearing.
Okay. If I'm able to get that information
Yeah.
and, give it to you, absolutely. I just have to
Okay.
find out if that's something that we
All
can
right,
do.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
In response, and to clarify, I met with Lieutenant Sean Murtha from the Crime Control Unit. They're aware of certain things in certain bars in the area, and that'll be addressed shortly. The other thing with the shooting, I met with the 2 detectives involved for over an hour this morning, and we were aware of what was, happening, but obviously we can't disclose quite a lot of what's going on. But you'll see some things on that soon.
I'm sorry, Mara, before you come up, Rebecca, did you have a comment?
I did, just during the question and answer, I wonder if it's helpful to put this microphone here so that if there's a conversation going back and forth, it's picking up both sides.
That's fine. Myrna?
Hi, Myrna Gordon, Rustic Road, Port Jefferson. When he was making mention of the harassing going on, it was not me this time. For those who know me. Anyway.
Well noted.
Thank you. Sorry. A few months ago, when we had an open meeting here, I don't believe you were present, but I brought up the subject of trying to open up Village Hall because it's on a partial lockdown. And I believe that some of the board members, and maybe even Mr. Egan, had mentioned that it was only a temporary solution. I'm hoping that with the crime statistics somewhat down in this village, that we will be able to open up our village hall to everybody. I know that there are concerns about safety, and we are certainly vigilant about that. I'm concerned about that at times, but I'm just hoping that you will reconsider and open up these doors for everybody. Lastly, I just want to make mention of concerns about, I've been watching some of the 6-acre park presentations, and I believe that, Mr. Luke, you were on it. And there seems to be a real concern about safety and about what's happening as the development of the 6-acre park is being built. It's my feeling that being uptown does not necessarily mean that all of the focus has to be on safety and fear, drug dealing going on. I hear what they want to try to eliminate at the park. I know that you did a walkthrough with Trustee Cassay, but I'm just hoping that we can go on, develop the park, and not spend so much time on the fear factor. Women are not going to get attacked. Okay, crime rate is not going to go up. Our constables will continue to roam and set out sector cars when needed. And I think that it's important that we just try to tone it down. I know there are residents who are concerned about this, and I can understand it. But a lot of the meeting, it's dealt with security, fencing, shrubbery that will help protect and defend and whatever. So I would just hope that we've got to stop with some of the fear factor, open up the building, develop 6-acre park. And the reason I say this is 20 years ago, most of you are not aware, and this is important, there has only been one activity and presentation that I can think of that happened uptown, and please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but almost 20 years ago in May of 2003, I initiated what we called a chalk walk uptown. Both sides of the streets had 120 people and kids and neighbors who came out on the streets with chalk. I have pictures here that I took. It was festive. It was joyful. We had food. I have pictures of Margot's mother there. Okay, not one time did we ever bring up at our meetings, our planning meetings, we have to be concerned of homeless encampments, drug deals. I can't even remember that. We did what we had to do uptown. We presented it. It was wonderful. So I'm just hoping, thank you for listening to me, that let's get on to do what we have to do, okay? I know everybody's concerned about what happened Saturday night here, and I know that you will take care of any things that happen at 6 Acre Park. And if we could just tone down the rhetoric a little bit about children being accosted with drug deals and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Myrna. Kathleen Riley, pardon me, sorry.
Kathleen Riley, 17 Leeward Lane. And Myrna, I just have to say, I know you're concerned, but I lived there for 20 years, and every year the chief knows that I have taken photographs, I've called the police. It does exist. I have nothing against Pax Christi, but we have to, it's just the way it is there, that we do have an issue with security. It's not something we can just say, oh, it's not happening. I've witnessed it every year. I've called, it's all recorded, all these things about the drug dealings, about, I videotaped one right at the back of Pax Christi. This is not something made up, and this is something ongoing that we do have to look for. The safety of our village residents is very important, and to me, it is the number one thing that we have to look at in making the park. And yeah, I thought it was an excellent meeting that Rebecca had chaired, and now we're going to go look at other things. But that was a very important thing before we can go do anything else in the park. Thank you.
It's an important element in the overall planning of the park.
I'd like to
Appreciate
address
both comments.
as well. As Commissioner of Public Safety, one of my first initiatives was to make Uptown safe. We got lots of complaints almost daily about issues uptown, train station issues. I received Ms. Riley's videotape, and it was extremely concerning for me, having children here and a family, and wanting to have a safe village. So many measures were taken over the last few years to make Uptown, especially the Pax Christi area, safer. Multiple conversations and visits to Pax Christi, the installation of taller fences, of specific landscaping, talking to the MTA. I can go on and on, but since then I've seen, and I hope you all have too, a significant improvement in that area as far as safety and people feeling safer. The complaints are much less, almost I would say almost non-existent compared to what they were when we took on this initiative uptown. Not saying that it doesn't continue and it won't continue, and there will always be particular issues, but I think we've made great strides, and I'm very proud of our village for doing that.
Thank you, Kathy Ann.
And before Myrna even spoke, I was going to ask the officer, what has it been like for Uptown, around the station as of lately? I know during the COVID time, it did, lessen the 2 years during the COVID, but I always like to know if anything that's reported that maybe the public should know about. And I also wanted to repeat, I, as a woman, I was nervous when a homeless person slept 4 feet from my back deck overnight, which is right next to the parkland. This was scary. I'm sorry. And my neighbors were really scared, and I tried to calm them down. I said, this probably won't happen again, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, when I heard about that, Chief and I, and I think Joe, you were with us as well, we walked through that area to see what was there and what was going on, and address certain issues there. And one of those issues was coming to the mayor and saying, this park that you've been talking about, I think it's time. I think in clearing out the bramble and the lack of a visual
Place
from
to
the
hide.
road. Yeah,
Places to hide.
exactly, to make it more of a place that people are going to go with a clear sight of vision. So that's kind of when that all happened. So, Kathleen is fantastic about reporting anything and everything, the See Something, Say Something initiative, and it's been great, because something like that, instead of just complaining that there's somebody sleeping there, you said something, we did something, we're, passing that along, and it's going to be a better place. So I'm happy about that. Thank you, Kathleen.
And I'll just follow that up to address Myrna's comment. That meeting, our special guest was Chief Lute from our code department to speak about safety specifically. In future meetings, we'll have someone from our parks department, someone from our legal department perhaps, to discuss these different facets of planning for whatever use that parkland will have, because they are all very important in creating this proposal to the Board of Trustees to say, hey, we had conversations with the individuals who are going to be the boots on the ground to, not out of a sense of fear, but just out of a sense of diligence. Just like they ride and walk through Harborfront Park and the rest of our village. This is part of our village. So we're saying, how will this, what is your lens through which you're looking at this project? And so again, we'll have parks come in and do this. We'll have legal come in and do this.
Just want to keep these comments to public safety if we could.
Yep. They're just following up on the public safety comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public speaking on public safety? Myrna, second bite of the apple?
On a good note is that when the videographer came to videotape down in the hall, I think you were there, the good thing that I observed from watching this person come in and videotape for several hours was that Barbara, you behaved so beautifully in knowing how to talk to this man who's doing all of the videotaping. You also, is it Joe? You did also. Village Hall went on. There were people in the hall. You were going back and forth. It did not seem like he was a threat to the people working at Village Hall. He indeed was talking to the Suffolk County police officers, but I just wanted to commend that Village Hall acted so appropriately, and the videographer even said at the end of his videotape how good the response was for the people who worked in this village. He thought it was an exceptional experience and communication that he had with both Barbara and with Joe. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Congratulations, you passed. Okay, any other comments for public safety? Thank you so much for your time. Sure, of course.
It's definitely a cooperative effort. We can't do it all. That's why we call on you. You tell us. We have a regular working partnership with Suffolk County PD, their Intelligence Bureau, and their Crime Control Unit, and the officers on the beat. We take your complaints. If there's something we can help you with, we do. And if there's something that's above our pay grade, we immediately let them know, and they take care of it. But it's a good working partnership, and it's working at this point to make the village a safer place.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. And that's the truth. Absolutely. I think we have a great working relationship with 6th. Cameras, of course. You have access to our cameras. They tell all.
Yep.
And
just helped us this morning with that shooting incident
Yep.
with camera work.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Just one word from our detectives. There was, just to relay a thank you to the businesses and to the village for the assistance with all the cameras and everything. It's incredible what we're able to
Yeah.
obtain from
Yep.
you and what we're going to be able to do with it. So
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That's why we do it. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
So we're going to do Board of Trustees reports very quickly, folks, and then we'll go to public comment. I'm going to start all at my right, Mr. Miller. Start with you, Bruce, tonight. Make sure your microphone is on, please.
Just following up, we mentioned this last meeting. Mayor Garant and I had a conversation with National Grid, a little bit of an informational process, a little bit of a bonding process. They are the people that run the power plants on our harbor. They have a division, a department that's looking to the future. possible use of hydrogen. There's a very large grant that's $8 billion from the federal government that has been passed. It's not the one that's still hung up. And there's going to be 4 sites around the state to do research and create methods of utilizing hydrogen for energy. National Grid is currently using some hydrogen, a percentage of hydrogen, mixing it with natural gas. They can do that. The problem with pumping all hydrogen through the pipes is that they can't do it. So basically, they're either going to have to redo the pipes or line them. And that project that I just described is in North Hempstead. So it's an interesting thing to follow up on. The state of California has met with the Chamber of Commerce, the National Chamber of Commerce of Germany, and the topic of discussion was hydrogen as a future energy source. We're all aware of the unfortunate events that are occurring in the Ukraine, and some of the blowback, the fallout from that being the dependence on Russian oil, and so another possible solution. But the state of California has stated, and they have very lofty green energy goals, as does New York, that they cannot achieve these goals without hydrogen. So I'm continuing to work with them, and we'll see if we can bring some project that's going to bring some more tax revenue to Port Jefferson. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Go to my far left with Trustee Cassay.
Ooh, curveball, thank you. All right, so the Conservation Advisory Council is continuing its work on adding to the Port Jefferson Village building guidelines. They are looking to add different green aspects to have the broad umbrella, looking at native plantings, requirements or recommendations, and as well as green building suggestions. These are guidelines that are given out to any developers, whether for new projects or major renovations for existing sites. The planning board had their Mather Northwell had their master plan public hearing, and that is available online for all to view. It's a very good presentation by their group there, and lots of public comment. So if you want to view that, that's on the Port Jeff YouTube channel, and that public hearing has been held open until the next. Until about a month from now, so I believe it's April 7th. I'll announce that at the next meeting as well, but that is it's held open so that public can write in, send in, or have additional comment through that time. The next planning board meeting, not regarding the Mather Northwell master plan, will be on the 10th at 6 p.m. As well, and that's for all of the other incredible things that are going on in this village. Port Jefferson Village Community Garden is welcoming their new and returning gardeners. We have actually tonight in about half an hour, so I don't know if any of us will make it, but the first program of the year is being co-hosted by the Port Jefferson Public Library. It's about vertical and square foot gardening, and that will be also on the library's YouTube page, so viewable thereafter. The show celebrating women's suffrage and the timeless collection of Nan Gazetta had the opening reception yesterday at the Village Center. It is a phenomenal show. It celebrates the really extraordinary women and efforts of our past, as well as a incredible woman who has just recently passed and left us from the village here. And we were, it's worth taking at least 15 minutes to pop up there sometime this month and reflect on how lucky we are for the people who came before us, and hopefully be inspired as well for our next steps here. The 6 Acre Park, again, I responded to Myrna's comment there. We have public comment available by emailing me at trustee-casse@portjeff.com. All of those comments get put into a public input document that the committee has access to and reviews at the end of every meeting. So anyone who has any thoughts, please do send them in. Otherwise, earlier at a business meeting, I requested that the board and mayor please do keep the committee apprised of their comments, their thoughts as we go on, so that when we get towards the end of this process to create a proposal, that we will, the committee's work will come to fruition and we'll take that next step. And that is my report.
Thank you, Rebecca. Stan, Trustee Laux.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of important announcements to make. Excuse my voice. I've had a little cold. Our registration for our summer camps is underway right now for residents only. We will open up the registration to non-residents on May 1st. So it's very important that if you want to register your child for these camps, try to get that registration in prior to May 1st. As I mentioned at previous board meetings, since the country club tennis courts are not available, all of our tennis instruction programs are going to be running down here at the village courts and back of the village hall. There will be open times for residents. We're going to post our schedule. The schedules will be posted on the entrance to the tennis courts for the open times. In addition to tennis, we're going to be running pickleball instruction programs on Sunday morning from 8 o'clock till 12:30 on the basketball court next to Rocket Ship Park. Our plan is to only occupy one half of the court. We're going to be using removable nets and lines. I have had communications with two of the gentlemen who play in the leagues Saturday and Sunday morning, and they are happy and that we can work this out. So I think it's going to work. With regards to both of these programs, we all need to understand this is a difficult year because of the loss of the country club facility. We want to continue as best we can, and I thank everyone for their understanding. I know we're taking over some of the areas that we haven't occupied before, but I think we can work this together, and I think it'll work out. On March 1st, the applications for the kayak permits will be on the website. The lottery will be held the first week in April, so that if you're interested in getting a permit for a kayak, she said March 1st?
Yeah, that opens up March 1st.
Yeah.
The lottery ends on April.
Right.
On the website, yeah, starting March 1st. It's
Okay.
posted on the website, send it into Village Hall,
The-
and the lottery takes place the first week in April for a kayak.
All right, some news from the country club. As I previously announced, we are not having a tennis membership up there this year. We have a major problem that I think everyone here is aware of. Because of the erosion of the bluff and the construction, the potential construction that's going to be taking place up there. We've lost the use of courts 1 through 4. And we have also lost the use of the lower courts because of the massive erosion that took place over by court number 5. The golf course is scheduled to open on April 1st. However, we hope to begin aeration if this weather holds. We're going to start aeration on March 17th. If the weather cooperates, we probably complete this process and be able to open on the 25th of the month. Membership is once again strong at the country club. At the present time, we have 458 members that have signed up. It's pretty close to where we were last year at the same time. Returning members will see a brand new driving range that is now entirely enclosed with protective netting. They will also see a brand-new stairway leading down from the 17th tee box to the 16th green. That went in, it started today. 2 days it'll be done. Additionally, during the early season, there's going to be some major bunker renovations taking place up at the Country Club on selected holes. For all members who have already signed up, if you've signed in prior to March 1st, you can begin to pick up your minimum cards tomorrow in the membership office. Those minimum cards are good at Danforth's. They're good at the club, which is the Waterview. And starting on April 1st, when the turn opens, they'll be also good in there. And finally, I would like to invite everyone who has not visited your country club, and believe it or not, there are people. I received an email today from someone who is a professor over at Stony Brook who wants to bring their students over for an exploratory of the bluff. She's a village resident and has never seen the country club. I'd like to invite you all up there to take a good look at the facilities. We have a full fitness center, a driving range, a practice area. We have the turn, and we have a full-service restaurant, and we probably have the best view on Long Island. And that is my report for tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Lokes. Moving to my right to Deputy Mayor Snaden.
Thank you, Mayor. Most of what I had to say for public safety was covered by our officers tonight. I would just add that our speed trailer should be up and running in the next week or so. So if anyone has a request to have that speed trailer placed in their neighborhood, if there's any speeding concerns, please email me at trustee-snaden@portjeff.com, and I'll be sure to put you on that list and get that speed trailer over to you. As liaison to the parking committee, I'm happy to report that after speaking with the GITO group, they have agreed to allow us 25 spaces in their CVS lot to be dedicated to Port Jefferson and to the village, and we're going to be adding one of the signs like we have in front of the Barnum lot, which will tell you how many spaces are available, which I think will be great for people coming in to visit in the village. We've talked about it and said that, people may not initially pull right in there because they feel they're too far away, but they'll go downtown, they'll circle around, not find a spot, and say, hey, I remember seeing a sign that there's 20 spaces available a little further up the block, and they'll head up there. So we're very happy with that. 25 spaces might not sound like a lot, but as you all know, for us, it's a lot of spaces. We're very happy about that, and we thank the GITO group for that. My Beautification Initiative, I spoke to our Parks Department today, and they're going to begin power washing the sidewalks, getting ready for spring cleaning sometime in late April, early May. And the planters that we have ordered last fall, there was a little mix-up in what was delivered back in the fall. They've been reordered, and we expect them the first week of April. These are some large rectangular street planters that will be placed uptown. We ordered 10 of those, hoping 5 on each side of the street, depending on where they can be placed. They'll be hopefully filled and teeming with flowers up there to beautify, help continue the beautification of Upper Port. The Business Improvement District has voted to purchase a 14-foot Christmas tree for downtown for next season. It's a tree that it will be lit and can be, layers can be added to this tree yearly, so it can continue to grow. They add to the bottom layer and it gets taller and taller every year, which is exciting. They're likening it to, the Port Jefferson Village Rockefeller Center type Christmas tree where they can have events and lighting, and that's really exciting. The location, the exact location hasn't been firmed up yet, so if anybody has any great ideas on where they think that big tree should go, please email me and I will pass it along to the Business Improvement District. Capital Improvements Committee at the school district. I am on that committee, and we've had a couple of meetings, the last one being in person at the school district. This is for their possible upcoming bond that they are going to be putting out there for vote. And we walked around the school, mainly the high school, partly the middle school for the music departments, to see what is needed there. It's extremely eye-opening. I knew that there were updates needed, but the horrific condition of part of this school building is beyond. So I encourage you, there will be public viewings, open houses set up so the public can go and view these areas that need to be upgraded. I highly recommend you go, because even they talked about putting a video together. It doesn't do it justice. You really have to go and see for yourself what these kids have been, dealing with at our school district. So please go and do that. When I have those times, I will be happy to post those and get those out to you. Our highway department is now addressing any potholes. They have their equipment out there filling those, so if there's anyone that has potholes in their area or you come across them, please, you can either contact the DPW department at 631-473-4733, or even easier, go right on our resident portal and put in that request. You'll be able to follow up on that request to see what is being done, and that goes straight to the department. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thanks, Kathy Ann. Of note, tonight, we also approved the purchase of a new asphalt hot box, because this one is being patched up, so hopefully we get enough potholes filled before the existing one goes kaput. Okay, report. Where should I start? Outdoor dining applications are going to be available for pickup if there's anybody here from the Business Improvement District. We're going to be continuing the outdoor dining on the sidewalks. We thought that added a nice dimension to the village. They're going to maintain the same distance from the building pursuant to the fire marshal's standards. What we are eliminating is the use of the parking lots, as now everybody's able to go back to full capacity inside. But the outdoor dining on the sidewalks, we think, really added a nice dimension to our village in the outdoor dining season. Rocket ship bathroom renovation is underway. The roof was repaired today. We have a nice cupola going on that roof to match the cupola at Rocket Ship Park. Fingers, toes, and eyes crossed that the complete renovation will be done by the end of March, which is right on the cusp of our opening of the season for our parks. Of note, we do open up Rocket Ship Park when there's no ice or snow in the park, and we had some complaints of late, but believe it or not, in the shady parts of that park, we still had snow on some of the equipment. If we have snow in any one area, we are not opening up the park, and the Parks Department doesn't go in there with the blower or the sweepers on that rubber matted material. We need to just let the water dissipate and let Mother Nature take her course. But largely that park is open when the weather permits. This year, this month is the one-year anniversary of the e-report. We met with Charmaine, who was here on the front row taking copious notes. I hope you all received the e-report. It's an electronic newsletter that goes out once a month. It's a really comprehensive recapitulation of what happens here on a monthly basis. We've added some nice dimensions, some video work there. We honor a volunteer of the month, an employee of the month. It's nice to get to know everybody that works hard in this village. Uptown, you'll see Confer 1 has a roof and windows, and they're putting sheetrock in, and that building's really starting to take shape. I will tell you that for almost 3 months, I was not able to drive because of my broken leg, and I think it was early February when I could first venture out, and I was heading back in from the southern approach, and I saw that building. I was overjoyed. I think, when the architectural elements come together, honestly, it's going to be a really profound statement, and you'll feel like you're entering into a new gateway for our community. But the good news is Conifer 2 was approved, so they're going to be doing another building on the contiguous corner, that contiguous to that building to Perry Street. So you'll have that entire block rejuvenated on Main Street. And at 1 North Country, which is the corner of North Country and Main, you will have the Lobster House probably coming down within the next 30 to 45 days. The building permit will be issued shortly thereafter, and so you'll see a new transformation on that corner. I think we've gotten a lot of sort of asphalt on the tires on the asphalt uptown. A lot of interest in other buildings happening as we speak. Met with several grant writers on flood mitigation grants. There's a lot of FEMA money out there now for hazard mitigation, flood mitigation. Of primary focus, the thing that we want to focus on is taking inventory of all the outfall pipes and the culverts. And what I mean by that is scoping them, finding out their diameters, finding out if they're lined up, if they're not lined up, if there's things blocking them, if they're actually functioning. That's going to probably be our focus for a grant initiative that we're going to be working with one of these environmental groups on submitting. The Explorium Museum, which is one of our partners down at the Harborfront campus, is proud to announce that after 15 years, it was opened originally as the Children's Maritime Museum. They have received their museum designation. That allows them to do a magnitude of things, apply for better grants. We met with Angelique. She was proud to announce to us that they recently received a grant from NASA. Is that better? NASA? So they'll be able to use the NASA logo. They're doing some really unbelievable things with teaching children from 2 to 8, that age group, hands-on science. They connected with a mathematics camp that is related to the Jim Simon's group over in the our fellow community. What is it? No. Renaissance, thank you. And so they're bringing some of these math science kits down for the kids to work with. I'm just, every time I speak to Angelique, it's crazy. They're having their Maker Fair in June. They say they're bringing over 3,000 kids to the Harborfront Park, learning, computer programming, STEM technology. It's really exciting. Want to announce that at the Drow Meadow Cottage, the historians have taken occupancy of the building. Sounds like a revolutionary takeover. To open up the important spy museum and educate everybody on Port Jefferson's role in the George Washington Spy Museum. Spy Ring. And so Georgette Greer-Key will be our docent in that building. She's setting up an office, and you'll be starting to see some permanent educational components for our kids and for the general public at that corner. Doing some minor renovations to the building, but that's a really important key to the village's history here. Budget workshop is going to be at our next board meeting. We're going to start that board meeting at 3 o'clock. Our public hearing for our budget is April 4th, the next public hearing here in this room. Downstairs, I mentioned that we had made a lot of applications for FEMA, for Ida and Isaias damage, including the lower bluff portion. We were initially denied. We're appealing that decision. We're not stopping. We continue to try and advance those projects to get money. And importantly, tonight, the Board of Trustees did approve to start the tow project to stabilize the lower portion of the bluff. We feel it's important to stabilize that, preserve the access to our beaches, preserve the beach, and revegetate the bluff. We think that that'll stay some of the aggressive erosion that is happening. We continue to explore the upland options. So, as we get more plans and priced out numbers, we're going to add them to the website, sportchef.com/East Beach Bluff. And we're going to explore all options for the upland to make sure we make the best decision for this community moving forward, because we understand Mother Nature is wicked. And we want to make sure that we have something we can all be proud of for the years to come. And with that, I'll open it to public comment. I'm sorry, I never forget your name in the back there. Is it Mark or Dennis? Mark, yes, please come forward.
Just wanted to add one thing to your report. The museum, the Children's Museum, they wanted to expand their programs beyond the elementary school age. So Victoria, you and your friends will hopefully be able to see some programs there.
Mark Croft, 11 Leeward Lane. And I just wanted to make what is an attempted clarification of Trustee Miller's statement before. As far as goes, there are actually 2 parallel grants regarding hydrogen for energy use. And so people here aren't confused by it. There is a grant that has been given to PSE&G for hydrogen cell technology, which is not related to the business that Trustee Miller was talking about. That's an established technology, and I don't know, I think it's something like 200 or 300 billing customers, maybe a little bit more, that are being selected. A couple of weeks ago, they only had 57% of people recruited. People would be getting electricity the same way that they normally do, but it would be credited as a separate bill. that would be given, and PS&E&G would be supporting the technology. That has nothing to do with the other business, except people might confuse the two. The technology that Trustee Miller is talking about with the natural gas that's done by National Grid is a much more problematic thing. I won't get into the technicalities, but since the densities are different of the gases, although they're initially mixable, they travel potentially at different rates in a pipe, and that can cause them to separate over time, and that can cause all sorts of grief. So you have to maintain a different type of mechanics for moving it through, which is well beyond anybody's attention span here, so I won't get into that. But that's not ready for use, and that's not likely to be ready for use for some time. But if people get approached by PSE&G, it's a totally different technology. That's a hydrogen cell storage. I think that's going to be somewhere in the Center Reach Selden area where they're going to actually have the hydrogen cells, and they've gotten approval for that grant as well. That's similar, but it's not the same thing.
Thank you for the
You're
clarification.
welcome.
Jack of all trades. Anyone else, public comment this evening? Arthur, come on up. Been watching a lot of The Price is Right. Come on down. Yeah, the next contestant.
On occasion, I resort to idiomatic language, and with regard to the Bluff and the Country Club, I would like to say it's one fine kettle of fish. I'm on the outside looking in, and sometimes that gives you an advantage that you're not fully indoctrinated, and you can come up with a solution that might not be apparent to other people. I was excited until I saw Mr. Verugian's presentation, because I saw in the Journal of Nature there was a peer review article published by MIT last month about a new substance, a polymer they've created that is stronger than steel and lighter than plastic. And I said, wow, if this is commercially available, this could be something that we could use and it could really be a game changer. Then I see Mr. Verugian saying how the DEC functions and how they have their stringent guidelines, their politics, and their red tape. And I realize the chances of them approving this for a permit are virtually zero. It's a very difficult issue to ponder because of so many different facets. The FEMA grants, you brought me up to speed in the meeting you had last week. I had no idea they were that difficult and that you could actually be awarded a grant and the disbursement might come 4 years later. That is unbelievable. And also there's the question of if we were to get a disbursement 4 years later, how would those funds be used? But one thing I'd like to actually address to Trustee Cassay, I'm not recommending this as a solution in how we rebuild the clubhouse if that becomes an issue, if we actually choose to do that. But interestingly, Habitat for Humanity built a home in Richmond last December using a 3D printer brought in from Copenhagen. The printer distributes small fine lines of concrete, goes back and forth like 150 times, and in the course of maybe a day created a 1,200 square foot exterior. That is something that could be, I don't know if that could ever be deployed for our country club, but it's something that would be ecologically advantageous, and the structure is known to be especially resistant to hurricanes and tornadoes. And it's just one innovative example of something, if you pursue it, you might find it to be viable. In the end, I do believe the country club is a great amenity of the village. I'd like to see it saved, but quite honestly, I'm not sure what's the best path.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Arthur, just state your address.
206 East Main. Thank you, Arthur. Art. Anybody else for comment to the public record this evening? Concerns, questions, passions? Victoria?
Victoria Snaden, 123 Arlington Avenue. I had a question regarding the bluff. So, being a tennis player, I love to go to the country club and play on their courts when I can. But I actually have a question about courts 5 through 8. I understand why you had to close, like, courts 1 through 5, but I'm not really understanding why you had to close courts 7 and 8, since they are really far away from the bluff. If court 5 started to, like, crumble away or something, I'm sure court, like, 8 would be fine.
Great question.
Of all people to respond to, you want me to respond to Kathy Ann's daughter.
No, it's a great question. I'll take it if nobody else wants it. You want me to do it?
Go for it.
No, because we were contemplating whether or not we could open, we're going to have to add either drainage, or if we do an upper wall, the upper wall is going to actually go into the area where 5 and 6 exist. So either option, all the heavy equipment has to come in from that south. They have to cross over 7 and 8 to get to that access point and stage, whether we're doing drainage or whether we're doing an upper wall. So if the project's not going to happen till the fall, or if it happens, we may be able to open up 7 and 8 for this season for our residents to use. So the jury's kind of still out on that, and it takes about 2 or 3 weeks to open up two courts. Stan, do you think? The Hartrue and the.
No, we can get the 2 courts open in a couple of days.
Well, I mean, we'd have to
Yeah.
get the contractor notice, and
Right.
so there's a good chance it might be open for this part of the season anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hope I answered your question. This brave young lady. Barbara. Giving hand signals to Michael. You guys draw straws over there? What?
Yeah, pick your poison. All right, good evening. On a few things. I'm with 409 East Broadway. So I only can assume at the business meeting prior to this meeting, you guys approved the bid to move ahead for the
Yes.
first phase, yes, for almost $5 million.
Correct.
Right, okay. I sent in a very, what I thought was a very thoughtful letter that I think you all received, dated February 25th. Some of that letter now is a moot point in regards to a permissive referendum. But what I would like to understand is, when this board was going through the process of trying to determine, what are we doing with the bluff and the country club and the safety, and when the resolution for the initial $10 million ban was approved by resolution in November, possibly, was there any, and I have a lot of questions, so I can stop and you can answer, but was there any thought about a permissive referendum at that point before we got to this point where we've already approved $5 million? Our past history in this village has shown that permissive referendums have worked. We bought the country club that way, we bought the harborfront property that way, and to me, this type of expenditure, it would have been nice if the voters, with probably a longer timeline, but not a lot longer timeline, would have been given choices of how they might have wanted to see that money be spent. So that's my first question.
So we've been talking about the bluff for
6 months, 9 months?
3.5 years.
Wow.
And working with DEC and GEI, and,
Correct.
we only had the numbers until we put the package out to bid and we got the bids back, and,
Right.
there's a sense of urgency at this point. And, when you put the bids out, the price of steel is only being held till March 15th. If we lose the price of steel, we'll have to go back out to bid, and the costs are just going to continue to rise. We did explore, putting everything out to public referendum, but again, we have to go back out to get our permits updated, and it's kind of like this situation where the Mother Nature's not letting up on us, and we have to get ahead of the storm. So that's the answer. I wish could have been a different answer.
Okay, so,
And by the way, we wouldn't borrow the money unless we needed. It's not just like we have $5 million hanging around.
oh, I understand.
We
I
also
got
were
it.
concerned about the price of steel, correct?
Yep, I think.
Yeah, but if this project was started in thought process 3.5 years ago, I'm just wondering if in fact that could have been taken care of, a permissive referendum, but, Yeah, and you talk about urgency. Yeah, there's urgency now, I understand that, but 3.5 years ago, maybe not as much
Well,
urgency.
we couldn't do anything until we had a DEC permit, which we only got this past year, and the Army Corps of Engineers permit only came in this past September. With those two permits, we can then put the project out to bid. Couldn't do anything until we had our permits in place.
2 point, the DEC permit. So we're going to move ahead with this first phase. We're going to drainage, the sea-toe wall, and if I understand it, this will hopefully give us a continued lifespan for the safety of the country club, 4 to 7 years.
So right now, by the way, we had a workshop, all these timelines are online if you want to watch the real thing, but
Yes.
right now, the building will go in approximately 4 years, if we do nothing.
Okay.
If we do the toe wall,
Right.
as we've just agreed to do, and revegetate the hill, we're more than likely adding potentially 7 to 8 years on that lifeline, or up to 10 years on the building, if we do nothing.
Okay, so if we then move ahead and these projects come to fruition, and then the second half of that 10 million for another wall, but we're not, how confident are you that we're going to get the DEC permits for that?
So right now, with the upland project and the plan that's in place, we've written a letter of non-jurisdiction to the DEC saying this project is not in your territory. We plan, it's because that's a big deal. If we are in DEC territory, then we have to go for their permits, and that's going to add another 8 months or a year on the timeline of waiting for a permit and being able to go out to bid. So that'll become a factor.
Okay, thank you. I have one more. Sure. All right, I also wrote another letter. This was also dated February 25th, and I think I'm just going to read this letter, and then there's not really a question as much as I want it for the record. This was dated to the mayor and village trustees, and it's about our gardening practices here in the village of Port Jefferson. And I guess the end result of this letter is I hope we're going to get another gardener back, and that we can do a better job on our parks. But it's third time in this case is not the charm. Once again, the decision was made to pull out mature plantings with no regard for transplanting or any attempt to save them in front of our village hall. First, the Port Jefferson Village Center Anchor Garden, where we lost a very well-established pollinating garden. Second was the tearing up the site of Arden and the Gap area, leaving only 2 evergreen trees. I'll bet, yes, the area was overgrown, but there was no consideration again on saving any existing plants. A true gardener review would have done things differently. It seems this is the ongoing theme, an easier way of doing things, tear up, clean slate, and produce a sterile-looking environment that anyone could have. We go to great effort of creating rain gardens, so why not carry over these types of actions to the rest of the village? We now have a community garden on Beach Street, and it appears no effort was even considered in moving plants there, just tear and pull. Yes, there were reasons these actions. Walls need to be repaired, choosing plantings that require little to no maintenance. But where is the creativity? Where is the opportunity to have not a sterile cookie-cutter look like anyone else could have? Back in August, I addressed some of these ideas to Kathleen's meeting to no avail, and we had to respectfully agree to disagree. I understand there's different opinions, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But when your own board has no idea of these actions, or better yet, no input, particularly when they have shown interest and have expertise in these areas, it shows a total level of disrespect. I truly understand. And yes, there will be new plantings for Village Hall. I can see it now. Some azaleas, maybe some yews, but nothing of real interest. You can't replace 30-year-old mature hydrangeas, not overnight. So, my personal opinion about gardening, I thank you for listening. I'm going to submit both these letters so that it's public. And we need to educate our parks people. They're very hardworking, the laborers out there, but they need to understand that we can do a better job and make this village a little bit different than just planting just regular plants, and I just don't quite understand it. And again, it just seems to happen all the time.
Thank you for your input, Barbara. Michael?
I had no idea what Barbara was going to say. No idea. but it was good. Thank you. Michael Mart, 205 Bayview Terrace. I watched your 2-hour meeting that you had over the bluff, the cliff. I almost said cliff. And it informed me a lot, but it raised a lot of other questions and comments that I was unable to address to you because it was not an open meeting. But I appreciate the opportunity to address you now.
I'm sorry, which was not an open meeting?
The 2-hour meeting that you had.
This past Wednesday?
Yeah, yeah.
So people attended and we did ask for their comment at the end.
Right, yeah, but it wasn't, I couldn't be there.
Okay.
Okay. So tonight, I stand to address you regarding the bluff issue, an issue that affects every household and business in the village. As such, whatever choices you make to deal with this issue, the one I believe most important is that you allow a village referendum on the choices you make on our behalf. There was a referendum in 1978 on the issue of whether or not the village was willing to purchase the then private country club and beach. That history is worth knowing. In 1978, voters were offered a beach, tennis courts, a golf course, a restaurant catering facility, and a community room to be available for rent to residents for small parties and gatherings. Recently, that part, the latter, no longer is offered. The village's purchase changed the facility from a private membership country club to a public park facility with golf, tennis, dining open to the public. For a fee, residents and non-residents can purchase playtime on the courts and the course, the golf course. Understandably, there seems to be some confusion between being referred to as a member or as a resident. Members are often referred to as those residents and non-residents who pay an annual fee for tennis and golf. But not all residents can be golf, tennis members, as those sports, by their very nature, have limits imposed by the number of players that can be accommodated, given the required scheduling for playing times, but all residents can enjoy the beach. From what I understand, about 10%, 700 to 800 residents, out of 8,000 residents, pay dues to play golf or tennis. Yet the remaining 90% of us share the ownership, responsibility, and liabilities for the park. Today, the issue facing us is in the fate of the building that provides locker rooms for tennis and golf and a restaurant catering venue for the public. Today, the issue, viewing several hours of your meeting addressing this issue, there seems to be some understanding that the endangered building has not served the community well. Over the years that operation has been leased by several operators with limited success. The revenue to the village has been part of the general revenue and not held in a dedicated operational capital account aimed at having funds for the building's capital expenses. Consequently, all village taxpayers are being held responsible for an estimated cost of maintaining the bluff and the building at its top, at a minimum cost of $10 million. It has been said at your table that the average estimated cost per household might be an increase in their taxes of $300 per year over a period of 15 to 30 years, with possibly more expense to install needed drainage in the future. Never wanting to count other people's money, I know paying $300 a year for the rest of my life in this village to save a structure that I do not use is a big ask. One that should be decided by all residents having the opportunity to vote for that or other potential options you might consider. You and others I have heard see the building as an asset in the village, to the village. An asset recently estimated to be worth $14 million. Worth, in its current precarious state, is now a $10 million liability. An asset's worth is primarily validated by its exchange of dollars. Again, from what I have heard from you to say among yourselves, you are clearly not satisfied with the facilities management abilities to satisfy resident expectations or the village's revenue expectations. Therefore, I suggest you consider offering that part of the park for sale for $14 million to a private operator, with the understanding that $10 million of that will be used to stabilize the structure, as per what we, as residents, might be required to pay. And in turn, we use the remaining $4 million to provide other needed facilities in the park. Or, as at least one of you had stated, allow the fate of the building to be decided by nature. And if necessary, build another smaller structure on safer ground. One that provides locker rooms for players and a restaurant bar without catering business, with the cost split between the tennis and golf fee payers and the rest of us. No doubt, there might be other options to be considered and presented, if there is an opportunity for public hearings followed by a referendum prior to committing to the final course of action. Thank you.
Any other public comment this evening? Rhonda?
Thank you. I really wasn't sure what I was going to say about this. I have watched all of the videos on the village, that the village has had over the past 4 or 5 months regarding this issue. And it was always my hope that there would be a village referendum. I just believe that with the cost that is going to be, that we're going to be assessed by, it's important that we hold, that we just have our citizens take part. For everybody in this room, not only will our village taxes go up, but our school taxes are going up, and our fire department taxes are going up. So we're not just talking about $300. And I can remember saying, listening to one of the trustees at the Bluff meeting say, but it's only $30 a month. Well, you know, some people don't have that money, and this is going to be added on. And I find it that we've been disrespected, disrespected as a community, especially with a $10 million cost that this could approximately cost, and possibly more, with the cost of all of the steel and all the other labor that's going to be involved with this. I want to also say another thing about during some of the programs that I was listening to, the video, members constantly said, board members constantly said there was the building wasn't used a lot. My comment to that is, on the website of the country club, it is advertised as a private waterfront country club. Ladies and gentlemen, it has never been a private country club since 1978, ever. We own it. The residents of this village own it. People who I speak to have no idea what is happening with the Bluff, so many of them. It's true, they don't go up there, and I would say that it's a public course, because the only way we can get funds is through state and federal, if we were a private club. So we've got to stop using the term private club. And I think that might turn a lot of people away over the years when they see it. They don't even know that they're allowed up there. They don't even know that they own it. that it's part of their whole village, whatever. Lastly, I'm not making so much time. It's been a tough week. But anyway, one last thing, and it has to do with the word autocracy. And when our representative government proceeds in very, very rapid form to approve something of this magnitude, rather than having public discourse, public discussion, public forums, and most of all transparency, it's almost as though you want no participation at all. So I would just implore you to please ask for the residents for some solution to this matter. Thank you.
I'm looking at our website right now for the Port Jeff Country Club,
Yes.
and if you could tell me where, not now, but in the,
I just looked it up again this afternoon.
let us know, because we will take that off the website immediately, but I do not
Thank
see
you.
anything that says private
Yeah.
on this website.
Yeah, it does.
It's right there?
It's right there. Just go down to the.
Port Jefferson Country
It says
Club.
a private, is it there?
Waterfront Private Country
Right.
Club offering 10.
Waterfront Private Country Club offering. Okay.
Yeah.
Take the word private right out. Thank you.
Hey, I got one thing going. Thank you.
Anyone else this evening?
At Zimmerman, 175 Wynwood Court South. This has to be fixed. It truly has to be fixed, the bluff.
What has to be
And
fixed?
The bluff.
Can
And I know
you,
that.
can you talk into your microphone for us, Pat? Thanks.
I go down by the beach a lot, and that bluff really does have to be fixed. You see it, and it's like waiting for something to fall quickly. Is there any chance we can get government funding to help us out?
Well, we had, as I reported, we had an application into FEMA. It's pending on appeal. We're making a second application to FEMA for hazard mitigation funds. There's different pots of money. So we've been working with applications for 3 applications in, so it's
I know
not,
you're good as far as getting help and getting money for the
well, we're
village.
trying this time, but, there's a lot of people who, there's a lot of Mother Nature out there acting up.
Okay,
But yes, we're working on funding.
okay, that's all.
Thank you, Pat. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn the public meeting at 7:15? Seconded by trustee Snedden. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.